Okay, so this is peer review. If you've heard any of my little videos before, you know I'm keen on peer review. I think it was the best thing that we ever did with regard to keeping our sanity and enjoying our work. And ultimately, it's worth doing. So, years ago, it was brought in for different reasons, which I think I mentioned in a little video that I'll add on. But a lot of dentists used to work on their own, and it was just a way of sort of meeting up with other dentists. That was my perception at the time, and also obviously keeping abreast of the latest technology. And some of us aren't the best at that. Anyway, this I was never happy with. I've probably got lots of details somewhere else in the house with this, following when I was a trainer. But I'm really quite keen on it now. And actually, what you could do is you could just make this the first talk for your peer review, your personal development plan. And you need, we're all different, so you need someone who will kind of set up the meeting, the time of the meeting, the place of the meeting, and record things. And as a group, you can decide who's going to give the next talk. I used to quite like the idea of someone who'd been on a course to come through to see what they'd learned on the course and what they could pass on. We don't all have to rush around the world looking for different courses. Although bizarrely, I did go to not New York. Oh, I stopped off in New York en route to Vegas, and I thoroughly recommend that. Anyway, yeah, I'd do a personal development plan and do it get CPD for it. And so these are my notes from a file that I had from a few years ago when we started doing it again. So we stopped getting paid for CPD, but just had an idea that we should be doing it anyway, and make it fun, make it interesting. And we got a load of, you must be the same, is that you got lots of contacts. So for instance, there's a talk on oral cancer. Well, one of my friends got oral cancer, and we got another friend knew the guy that did the treatment, and so we got him in. We've had someone in to talk about sepsis. One of my friends, he's a professor of oral microbiology, he came in. But in the main, it was just mainly people that we knew. I think we got a few in sort of reps. Optident were one that came in. And these people are quite keen to do a talk, and they'll probably pay for your food. But in the end, these people who came and gave the talk, and if it was one of us, we'd pay them with food and drink in the pub afterwards. So that's always a good thing. So anyway, this was taken off GDC website. So the other page that I showed you, I must have got that from the GDC and printed it off. So that's where you need to go if you want to read the 18 pages and have a quick look at this, pause it and read it and move on. And this is the thing that's probably most important is when you do the talk, where does it fall? Well, most of this stuff is about IT, which I think is communication. And so it's certainly going to be in A, practice management and team building, leadership. I think it's probably a lot of it's B, clinical and technical areas of study, and there was something else, upskilling opportunities. So it's probably a C. Not sure about a D, but A, B, C. That's quite a few. Anyway, but the BDA, this one, obviously I printed this off, and this must have been the time when I was thinking about how we could do it. And so this was in the file, so I'm no longer with the BDA, but I'm sure one of you is. And so just have a look up. So again, I would pause this and just read it. I was never big into audit. Everyone does the same audits on the radiographs, since it gets a little bit tedious. But you might find some people who are very keen on it, and you might be able to make it useful for everybody. And that's the idea of this, is to make it useful for all of us. So ultimately, you'll need one of these. And, again, that's a little bit of a pain, but you can do it relatively straightforward. And at some point now, we're going to come to find out that my skills aren't that great. And I couldn't find a talk that I did on peer review, just to give as an example, really. But it was a talk because the dentist meant to give the talk broke his arm, and so quickly I cobbled together a talk because nobody, to be frank, no one was too bothered about missing the talk on endodontics, but most people wanted to go to the pub. You can't claim CPD for that, but it's nice to meet up with friends. Oh yeah, and so on the clearly up to date in some areas with on the BDA website for what you can do for peer review. But like I said, everything I think you wanted was on that previous page, so I'd have a read of that. So the talk that I gave, I found this in my files, and it was on mindfulness, and it's still available, and it was really good. You don't have to pay for it; you just have to get in at the right time. But the Future Learn is very good. There's one there on creating the digital image, I think it's called. That's the only one on dentistry. But there are lots of other courses on there that are relevant to work, and I can't understand why we aren't, as a profession, getting CPD for what is the way the vast majority of us communicate, which is what this is, digitally. So yeah, on this particular course, what surprised me was I'd made some notes, and you can see it was a few years ago because I was still trying to avoid wearing glasses. So so you can see that's really quite large text. I wouldn't enlarge that because there's probably lots of spelling mistakes and it probably doesn't make any sense. Right, so this is the talk that I gave, so sorry for any repetition, but all I'd say is the idea is how you create a presentation yourself. So this is me recording from Dropbox, and there's quite a few of these things on Dropbox, but I don't use it that much now. If only I could find them. Okay, so this is the talk that I gave, and I found it on Dropbox. I'm not quite sure how I've done this. Anyway, I can't find the original slides, and that's it. While we've got all these things, I would strongly urge people to work out how to keep a good library on their computers, because mine's rubbish. Spend far too much time looking for stuff, and I should have deleted a lot of things I haven't. But anyway, if you've read this, the idea behind this is just to show you what you can do, and it doesn't always have to be about dentistry. So one of the reasons to do peer review is back in the day we used to get paid for doing it, which I'm sure you're aware of, and we used to go to some really nice restaurants and someone would talk for an hour, but we did take it sort of seriously. But the main thing was the meal, and also it's brought in for what at that time, as I said before, sadly quite a few people committed suicide. And I always remember a guy coming in giving us a talk on the other form of CPD, which is a lunch and learn, and joking about some dentist that he knew who had just broken down and they had to call a unit in to collect him because he was just sitting in the chair crying while the patient had to be taken out. He just cracked up. Yeah, and he's the guy I bought my first practice off. And one of the other guys that I used to play golf with, who's a couple of years older than me, he came to the practice to work as an associate, and then he didn't. 2 weeks later, he was dead. So these courses are very useful, and it's not new, this anxiety or mindfulness. I think we suffer from it more because of what I'm doing is talking about teeth and sort of showing what fantastic things we can do on Instagram. Anyway, so yeah, that's a different story again. But this is what I kind of did and how we were going to talk about it. And yeah, previously you'd just see my little notes that I'd scribbled on it, which was unusual for me, trying to keep some notes. And clearly I haven't done it here. But one of the things I said at that time was that, because I just got my own watch and Apple Watch, I bought it in New York. They hadn't been released in the UK. And after a while, a software update come on and it said, remember to stand. Well, I thought that's a bit weird, but obviously it's because, we need to move around a bit more. And then the next thing it says, remember to breathe. Breathe for 3 minutes, nice and slow. I think, I always breathe, I'd be dead. But, that's mindfulness, isn't it? And then when COVID struck, the next software said, oh, you haven't cleaned your hands for 20 seconds. So these things can help. So this is the course I always recommend, Future Learn. There is one that I've put elsewhere on taking your image. It's about how to do good clinical photos, which clearly I haven't done, but I have been on the course. And like I say, the course on FutureLint is identical to the course that the guy actually gives, if he still does. He's someone from Birmingham, and it was a great course. It's just that I didn't do it a lot. I needed to, I worked mainly in the health service initially, used to doing things quickly. I couldn't afford to spend a quarter of an hour getting everything set up to take a nice photo that no one would see apart from me. Right, so I think this was just, as I would say before, is if you like this kind of thing, then just, cut it and do your own talk. So cut and paste. Then I passed it around the room, what makes you feel anxious. So there's about 14 of us all sitting there, and we all get anxious about different things and how we deal with it. And so the interesting was, I said I went for bike rides. And when you look back, my second job I had, I hated. But I think the only thing that kept me sane was my motorbike was unreliable, my motor car was unreliable, and I used to cycle to work in the end. And cycling home up a hill, I think, sorted me out. And this, I don't know why this talks in, but the guy standing there isn't the guy at the bottom. This guy's, I think he was called Sir Kenneth Robinson. So if you look up him on TED Talk, it talks about creativity and how we should keep our inner self and keep the child amongst us. And Picasso says the same thing, and obviously I'm not Picasso. Let's not go down there. Yeah, and that's what I was talking to. Lots of people I know have committed suicide. And I just read that book, which was, I think that was about psychiatric illness. I mean, and that's a subject that's far too close. And this one, and this is where videos come in, is that if you are depressed, this is a really good, it's a long time since I saw it, but I just remember at the time how it explained depression. And I think we need to talk to our friends. I mean, people are more open about it now. I'm never quite sure if people are too open about certain things and that everyone else thinks they jump on the bandwagon. That's a bit unfair, but it can strike anybody. Yeah, I'm sure some of you may not recognise Robin Williams, but that guy was funny. And I don't know why I put this in, but any excuse to put a picture of my family. So my brother was there with my dad, and obviously myself. That coat cost £5 in the junk shop, best buy ever. And what it was, I think, was partly because when we were talking about different things about well-being, my brother at that time had been, he had problems because he was getting bullied at work. A joke, and it's just a nonsense. So my dad was starting to suffer with, or as you say, live with dementia. So this is me at 50, so it's a while ago. My dad's no longer with us. My brother was in charge of this. He was in charge of the power station. He never went to university. He's done fantastically well, but even within this hierarchy, he was getting grief from work. So we all get grief in a different way, and we all handle it in a different way. But if there was one person and I thought would never have a problem, it was him. But we all can, and he's a, and sometimes they're just lucky. Lots of different things. And obviously Van Gogh was a bit mad. Actually, that's not a very nice thing to say. He was ill. And I went to see his exhibition, his digital, well, it's not his, but they had a big show of his, I think it's 360 show that's doing the tours, and that's well worth seeing. And this is another thing, it was just about how, and this would apply for mental illness to a degree. It's a different way of looking at how we deal with health. So this is another talk that I heard years ago, and it's obviously it's on YouTube. Ultimately it's extremely sad, but from every sad event it brings onto something good, and so his talk is incredible, and it brings along this. And so as an example, what's happened, and it's happened more recently, is that people who suffer from MS always thought that they had some relief from cannabis, and in a variety of forms, and it's never been researched that well, but they're doing it a lot more now, and it's been held back. So all the things that we could have had with cannabis have been held back due to different lobby groups. I mean, there's a lot of sad stuff out there. But when it comes to treating anxiety, what would happen is someone who has it says what works for them and what tablets work for them, what don't. So at that time, I remember looking at what they thought about lithium. But if you go on, it's the Patients Like Us website, Patients Like Me, I think it's Patients Like Us. It's a very good website. And as was this. So the interesting part was we all talked about what made us, what give us stress, and there are different stresses at work, different stresses, at home, and how we dealt with it. Now this is a good way to deal with stress, because I have had to go a little bit of yoga, especially when my legs got, my hips were bad, and I still have a go at yoga. It's really good. I haven't done beer yoga, because it doesn't look like girls are drinking it, they're just looking at it. I tend to drink it. I find that works better for me, but each to his own. And so these were my notes about it, I think. Yeah, I think I'll stop there because there was a ramble, as you can tell. And so you do, as part of the CPD, you need feedback, and it's always a bit of a drag. So this is one of the things that I did was I'd send out, because they'd be sent on email, I'd send an email saying, right, give the feedback, and then I'll send the CPD certificate. You don't have to do that really. I think I was just learning how to use SurveyMonkey, and there are lots of others out there, and they get easier to use each time. So ultimately, this will probably save you a bit of time. And so if they did the feedback, then I'd give them a form. So, and you can see it kind of covers what you saw in the first one. And so this one was on tooth wear and erosion. And so, once you've got your template, they're relatively easy to do. So you could have a quick read of that, but make your own up. And so this is stuff on Dropbox, so I really need to tidy this up. I haven't really used it for a couple of years. I used to use it a lot, like I said before, for different sort of templates that I've made in the past. So there are a lot on there, so even some of the peer review stuff that we did, and some of the stuff other dentists did maybe on there. But I'm not going to go rooting around for them now. It's quite, the weather's a bit better. Right, so that one we've seen before. Oh yeah, and so in a previous one, I think I said there's a way that we should work. So there are two main forms of business. Now as I said, we're in the form of the health business, and I think that the way it's set up, as we're all aware, is we get directed by the NHS, not always in a good way. And so you're thinking how you can turn it around. So what I was saying is that to make a dental health service, we all need to help ourselves. So it's too onerous for us all to do it. But if we got a bit organised, we could do it. And we can sort of, you may have seen this before, what we need is some group of people to sort of go through what they think is an ideal children's video. So you can go on YouTube and look at my videos for that. You may not like them, then that's fine. Just do another one. Show me another one. And when we agree on these videos, then we can, put them onto one website or one app, whatever. But as a group, to agree to them. So different groups could do different things, and so you don't have to do them all. You just need a group of people to do the same, to do something for the text, really. And maybe if you want voices in it, maybe get someone to do a voiceover, but they need to be consistent. And then ultimately what we would do then is, they'd all be sort of arranged, and so a group of people who can actually kind of help the collaboration and direct people to produce something that's of value, and to assess everything and then drive it forward. And then what we would have relatively quickly would be a basic system that we can agree on, which we could call a dental health service. And it would all be remote. It would either be on a website or on an app, but it would just be general advice on prevention, and we can easily do that. Well, when I say easy, we can do that. It's getting people to do anything for free. And what you're trying to do is then a lot of startups and innovations use this technique, and it's also called, I'm not sure if it's called Lean Startup, but Agile. It's a similar thing, how you keep developing something. So when COVID struck, I made this website, and so if you go onto it, actually it doesn't have the website on it, but it's denflix.co.uk, and yeah, actually you must have found it because this video will be on there. But anyway, the idea was to be a good, trustworthy resource to support young dentists who are coming out every year with less and less experience. And I distinctly remember doing my first apicectomy, and I hadn't really seen one because it was 8 deep when you saw the dentist do one at the at dental school, and so you just had to crack on from a book. Now you've got YouTube, and some of the videos you see are fantastic, and also some of them you see are just are wrong. Anyway, I haven't got time to show them, but that's how it would work. If you see is that, if make a series of videos as I have done already, but you can gradually perfect them. But before you do that, you need to have a sort of an idea that they all need to be relatively the same, either the animation or different graphics or something like that. And also what we can do is, I don't think you need too many videos for dentistry as such, but we can then signpost people to other videos with regards to diabetes, with regard to obesity, with regard to mental health, just little, as it says, little nudges to get people just to think. So telling people what to do never works, but actually, we're not getting very far on changing behaviour. So we need to look at how we can do this behavioural change well. And quite frankly, I can't see anything out there that's worked particularly well. It's extremely difficult. What was interesting, I guess, was, and this won't happen for us, was that when COVID struck and you had to have your COVID pass before you could get into the pub, well, that worked. And I know people say, well, you've got to have your, well, you don't want Big Brother, but sometimes what we may want is, for instance, if you do a plan, you want people to pay into the plan, but they also have to turn up, and then, so that's a different talk itself. But we have to think of things, and if everyone can put in their ideas, however odd or off the wall that you think, then we can produce something that will benefit everybody, I hope. So as I said, this was for young dentists. I think I took it out silver. There was bronze, silver and gold, and I thought, oh dear. But you kind of get the gist of it. You want a base level, which you would say was the NHS, and then you'd want like the gold level, which would be a specialist. And what we don't want is, and what we have got is, the NHS to a large extent pays you for, well, it doesn't pay you for bronze really, but it expects you to do gold, and that's just not realistic. And maybe we can just work outside it, but still provide health for the general public. And so, yeah, that's it. So that's the website that I haven't built, but hopefully we can. So hopefully we'll get some people in touch, some LDC, some people of influence, some people who've got a few followers, and then we can have, something like that we can all kind of be involved in and support the public, because from where I'm sitting, not much is happening, not much has happened, and not much will happen if you keep expecting the government to do something. So maybe we should do something. Maybe I can turn this off.